Get ready. Oh, that's- oh, man. There you go.
Good afternoon and welcome to AM News Network presents Summary Judgment Talk Show. I'm attorney Rachel Baird and I'm joined by my co-host Edward Peruta. We're transmitting live from the American News Media Center in Hartford, Connecticut on this August 19th of 2023. It's a busy weekend.
It has been a busy week, and you were a person that you don't really want to be around when you're doing 24/7 shifts.
Well, we went to a 3-hour town meeting on the 16th, which was Wednesday, 7 to 10. We recorded it. We need to you know what? We need to post that at our Summary Judgment YouTube channel. We posted it at the Board of
Well,
Assessment Appeals,
yep.
BAA Enfield YouTube channel, but we need to post it at ours too. You know, what happened in this case was the tax assessor in Enfield came into town and changed a lot of things that had been done for a very long time. The town residents believing what they had been doing was correct. And a lot of changes were made that affected people's taxes negatively. Their taxes went up. And a controversy erupted between the tax assessor and the Board of Assessment Appeals because the Board of Assessment Appeals is there as a convenient, efficient way for taxpayers to appeal assessments, and that's what they did. And then the tax assessor turned around and revised those and acted really, in the opinion of the BAA, whom I represent, by the way, as a disclaimer, outside his authority and jurisdiction. And so the BAA has been speaking up and speaking out about this, and the town, to protect itself, as towns often do, hired what they call an independent investigator. Now, the town is paying this independent investigator, so when you're being paid by someone, cannot truly be said to be independent. Just doesn't work that way. They hired a law firm, they hired an attorney. I mean, that's another beef that I have is I don't believe attorneys are really trained to be investigators unless they have some sort of credentials outside of simply being a lawyer.
Disclaimer.
Yeah.
That's because of a case that I brought.
Okay, what was that case?
It was Rocky Hill. When considered the attorneys investigating Chief Schnabel, and I wanted the records after it was over, they said, nope, that's attorney-client privilege.
Well,
and I said, they're not attorneys. They're investigators. There's a difference between an attorney. You're not going to call a detective, an attorney because he's researching law. Yeah. So just keep going.
Yeah, no, you're correct. And that goes into a whole nother area where the towns will hire attorneys instead of investigators who are not attorneys to investigate things because they can claim it's the attorney-client privilege. Well, if you have the attorney-client privilege with an attorney, then that attorney is being paid by you. That attorney is not independent, not impartial. And as predicted, this attorney that was hired by the town came out in favor of the town in a scathing report that really was very derogatory towards the members of the BAA. And the point I'm trying to get to is, well, the BAA has been holding meetings to set the record straight, and that's the 3-hour meeting that we went to on Wednesday night. Let's try to figure this out, Ed. When people call the town clerk up in Enfield to get all the documents related to this investigation of the tax assessor and the Board of Assessment Appeals up in Enfield, the clerk will refer you to a report and an appendix to the report that are online.
Yep.
The problem is, in the report, there's a reference to 10,000 pages of documents. Not only are there 10,000 pages of documents, but there are also videos of interviews. All 3 members of the BAA were interviewed. The town manager was interviewed. The tax assessor was interviewed. And there were other people that were interviewed, and they were all interviewed on Zoom, and it was recorded. And then for many of these people, there were transcripts that were prepared as well. Now, the 10,000 pages are in electronic format. How do we know that, Ed?
They said so.
Well, and we received them. I have them. I have them in electronic. Everything's in electronic format. Everything. So I made an FOI request to the town clerk for the 10,000 documents and was told that they were only available in paper format. But we know that's not true because right after that, we in fact got them in electronic format from the source of the documents, which was, I believe, the one of the attorneys at the law firm that did the independent investigation. So if a council person or a resident of Enfield calls up the town clerk to get these 10,000 documents, they're told, well, you can get the report and you can get the appendix online, but if you want the documents, I think they said it's 50 cents a page would be $5,000. Or I guess you could just go into the town clerk's office and sit around all day reading these things.
I consider myself to be a somewhat out of date FOI guru in the state of Connecticut. I've been doing FOI since January of 1976. And the FOI came into existence on October 1st, 1975. I was one of the first people to file and win an FOI case. But let me see if I can explain what's going on here. Okay. I had reason to request records from the town of Rocky Hill after they terminated Police Chief Schnabel. During the litigation, leading up to the Schnabel's litigation, I was one of his victims accused of child abuse. That did not happen. And I won in federal court on that issue. And I wanted all of the records that had been acquired by the town attorney's office who was doing the investigation. And the town was able to successfully argue that when an attorney is hired to conduct an investigation, they are an attorney doing the investigation and it's protected by attorney client privilege. Now, having said that, okay, I received a call from Chief James Citran several years ago. And I was asked, Ed, are you in town? And I said, yeah, why? He thought I was in California, but I wasn't. It was one of those kind of leading up to heart transplant situations. And so I went down and I talked to him. And he said to me, Ed, I don't know what to do. He said, the town manager, and at the time that was Jeff Bridges, okay, is harassing me nonstop. I get email after email after email, phone call telling me how to run my department. It really became a critical issue with Chief Citran that these managers are running the department. And I said, he's sending you all these emails? He said, yeah, you can't even believe how many there are. I said, do you use Outlook? He said, yes, I do. I said, consider this an FOI request. I want every email that has come to you or has been sent by you to the town manager, Jeff Bridges, to or from. So he says, well, I said, you don't know how to do it, Jim. You're not you're an arcade, you're a arc, what is it, an antique? Yeah. I said, okay. I have a thumb drive out of the package. Let me sit in your chair for a minute. Watch me. I was able to put the thumb drive in. I said, I'm going to create a folder over here that says Bridges. And then I'm going to look at your inbox, which had thousands of emails in it. And I said, search for Bridges. And all of the town manager's emails came up along with the ones that were sent by him or to him, that email address. And I was able to say, shift to the first one, shift to the last one, drag them all and put them onto a thumb drive. And I walked out. Said, thank you very much. I'll take care of it from here. Now I'm curious. Now I'm curious. So I went up to town hall and I asked Jeff Bridges. I made an FOI request. I said, Mr. Bridges, I would like to have access to all of the email correspondence between you and Chief Tran. And he said, okay. And so it was about a month. And he calls me up and he says, well, we've got him. But we're going to charge you, God, I don't know how much, $4,000. I said, for what? He said, well, we had to give them to an attorney at Holleran and Sage to go through every single email and redact what needs to be redacted. I said, yeah. And oh, hold on.
Yeah,
Eric
I had
is
a
on.
really good fishing experience one time when I was a kid. We went
Okay.
wade fishing in the Gulf of
Turn down
Mexico.
some audio,
You're like
please.
up here in the water and you're just catching fish like crazy, like red snapper and stuff. Mm.
Who's got their audio open?
You don't have to.
Okay.
You don't have to let him in. What?
All right. Hold on.
The ladders keep the animals out. That's why he's ladders. They get up there.
Animals.
No, it's a tree house.
They go right from the tree.
I'm going to turn my volume
Oh, yeah,
down.
I guess 3 animals.
The steep ladder.
Do you know who's on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Eric is on. Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
Okay, hold
Sorry.
on. Make sure I got this right now. I don't want to do what I
Hey.
did last time.
Hey, how you doing?
I don't want to do what I did last time. Speaker.
Hello?
I got the right speakers. I don't know why I can't hear. I don't know why I can't.
I don't see Eric.
Freda, could I join your Wi-Fi?
Okay.
What is it, Forest Bath?
So
What's the password?
I went into his office.
What?
Anchor boxes. You have those cardboard boxes that lawyers have. Like 5 of them stacked up in his office.
A-N-T-I-E-N-T?
I said, well, are these? I take these with me. He said, you got to pay $4,000. I said, what?
P-O-N-D?
He said, for the editing, the
Ancient Pond?
redacting of the documents. I said,
Oh,
Mr. Bridges,
Ancient
the
Pond
cost of
313.
redacting is on your document, not mine. If you have to prepare the document for me to simply look at it for free, that's your problem.
And you don't need to print it out to redact it.
No, you can redact it right in.
Yeah.
You know, you can
313?
copy them to PDF. You can blacken stuff out. You can do whatever.
Is it
okay?
Wi-Fi spotty here?
I can't see me.
Is spotty here?
No.
Where were we with this?
So
We were
he
talking.
wanted to charge me $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, nah, you know something? Forget it.
Sad.
And he was sitting there with a $4,000 edited box of paper emails, okay, that I wasn't going to pay for. And I didn't
You have
have to pay.
Coyote over here?
No, you're not going to pay for those.
Wow.
He was busting my stones.
Yeah, probably in those boxes was just blank paper.
Busting my stones. But what he didn't know, and it's legitimate to do it this way, to get an FOI done by the agency, the police department, I got them. And then you can, from the town manager, and what you do is compare them side by side to say, what has the manager left out or what has the chief left out?
Right.
What is missing? They're not the same. They're not equal. What's going on? So when I
Okay, now
was
I see
up
me.
in Enfield, I heard
Eric.
them talking about being charged 50 cents. I said, all you got to do is walk in and say you want to read them.
Yeah, but the problem is there's 10,000 pages and nobody wants to sit in the town clerk's office to read them.
No. But if you're going to be able to read it raw, unedited, then you have to be given it raw and unedited because it's already been disclosed.
Yeah, it's part of the investigation.
Well, I didn't get into the investigation thing because I'm totally opposed to that. What if the town of Enfield or Wethersfield or Rocky Hill or Greenwich, a Connecticut town that I know about, What if they hired an attorney to be the town manager?
Yeah, like no, I was
What's his
thinking
name? The lawyer in Suffield or wherever we were, Enfield, Suffield,
Yeah,
that town.
yeah.
They hired a lawyer to be their first selectman. So I'm sitting there saying, you're now going to say everything's protected by attorney-client privilege because a lawyer did it?
Just though that the documents, the 10,000 pages, they started, they were printed out, but they're available in electronic format. Let's face it, everything is available in electronic format first, because nobody is sitting at a typewriter and typing things anymore. Things are always in electronic format before they're in paper, I think. I mean, I'm trying to figure out a circumstance where that would not be the case anymore. Is there?
Say that one more time?
Is there a circumstance where something would start out in paper format?
Yep.
What? Like a map?
No. I'm saying, go ahead.
Yeah.
It starts out as paper.
What would that be, though? Don't we do everything on a computer now and then print it out?
Well,
Is there anything that starts out in paper anymore?
Example, a clerk for council
Okay.
takes notes by hand. The next morning or that night, depending on when meeting's over, goes in her office and types in Microsoft Word the notes that she had to create the minutes.
Okay.
Now, the notes that she took are a rough draft, okay? Those are her working notes. But what she typed as the minutes is the first draft of public record.
You haven't gone to that many meetings around the state to know whether anybody sits there with a pen and paper and makes notes with their hands anymore. Do people still do?
No, what happens now is, and this happened early 90s. The Hartford Courant had an issue called River Self Edition. That was those towns south of Hartford along the river on the west side of the river. And they assigned a reporter for each of the communities, or it may be whether you got Wethersfield and Rocky Hill, you've got Newington and New Britain. Okay, each town, they had each. And those reporters would come to a town council meeting, come to a Board of Ed meeting. They'd sit there and they would take notes and say, Rachel Baird got to the podium and started talking about they got some tree down in front of her house. They shouldn't have. After the meeting, the reporter would walk up to Attorney Baird when she was done addressing the council and interview her and get a little bit more than 3-minute limit on what's the story here. And what happened was on January 7th, 1991, American News transmitted live the first town council meeting in Rocky Hill. Nobody was doing it. We were doing it. We did. Then the mayor came up and said, can you do Board of Education? We're catching all the heat, the public. Let them catch some heat. So now we did Board of Ed. I did the same thing in Wethersfield. First transmission live was because of American News. Around the same time, I'm up in Enfield trying to convince Enfield that Cox will give you a wire, you can hook into it, they'll give you the money to buy your equipment, and you can transmit your meetings live. And that's what they're doing now. Like, I know I'm talking to them. And the whole thing comes down to, her name was Monica Carroll. One of them was Monica Carroll. And Monica Carroll would come and do the town council meeting. I would go up and I would speak. She would interview me afterwards, and I'd explain the fine points that I was talking about. And it would appear in Curve next day. Then they started to sit home and watch the meeting on cable and take notes. But they never got to interview the people who had the problem.
Right. Well, you call.
So, yeah, but and what they did was they started doing stories based on sitting their ass at home instead of being out there wearing shoe leather, so to speak. And that's what was going on, is that the public only knows what is published or made public. There's a lot of shit that never sees the light of day.
Well, getting back to what happened with those 10,000 documents, they they were part of the report, and the report was public. And so when clients got those documents, they were sending some of them to me and commenting on them, and I'm looking at those documents.
How did he get these?
No, they said privileged and confidential.
Okay.
So what happened, the thing is that the law firm that did the investigation, when the documents were requested, just sent them out and didn't check. I'm not sure what happened, but there are confidential communications in there that those people thought would never see the light of day. That's what comes down to it.
Look,
And so that meeting the other night was 3 hours long, and probably an hour and a half of it was the board chairman reading these documents to a packed house,
public records, reading public records
of
the packed room.
Of communications between government officials.
Some very devious shit being discussed.
Yeah, and they never thought anybody would see these communications. It was pretty amazing. I don't know what happened that those documents got out like that. I don't know what happened.
You know, this problem goes all the way back to when electronics were first used by government. Nixon has an 18-minute gap that disappeared. Recently, the Justice Department or the Secret Service lost their text message. You couldn't find it.
Well, look what happened in the Alex Jones case. There was a case that was tried in Texas against Alex Jones and InfoWars, and there was a case that was tried here in Connecticut. And the case here in Connecticut was televised. I maybe the one in Texas was too as well. But there was an attorney up here, obviously, representing Jones, and there was an attorney in Texas representing Jones. And medical records were provided, I think, to the attorneys up here. Medical records of the parents of the children who were suing, right? And they were provided in discovery, and obviously they're highly confidential. You can imagine, just showing the stress, I would think, and the treatment that the parents went through related to the deaths of their children.
Yeah, this is Gary
And that was
Nance.
part of their
Your
claim for
audio
damages
is
against
garbled.
Alex Jones because he made that all the worse by claiming that their children never died. So somehow in the fog of war,
Are you talking about the Newtown family?
somehow in the fog of war, when there's millions of documents churning through electronic discovery, medical records made it from Connecticut down to Texas. I'm trying to think of it the other way. Texas up Connecticut.
Gary, can you hear me?
Yeah, and I can hear you, but your audio is garbled.
I don't know why you guys don't rest for a week.
But we were doing exactly what we did last
You
time.
need to rest.
I'm going to try speakers. You can't do that. Speakers. Okay. Can you hear
Sounds better
Gary?
now. You hear me?
I don't know why this is doing this. Choose volume.
So the
I
attorney
think you're.
here
Yep,
was
keep going.
the attorney here faced discipline for that, suspended 6 months, but was staying while he's appealing it. And
He's
so,
to go through bankruptcy.
no, the attorney,
Oh,
yeah,
down there.
up here. But the attorney up here was suspended, I think, for 6 months, but it was staying.
Okay. Who supplied the medical records to who?
I feel like I don't know. You know what?
I think
They went
came
one
from
way.
Texas to Connecticut.
I'm not- yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know why the attorney up here then would be in hot water.
Gary, try one more time.
I'm trying to think of why we brought that up. Oh, privileged and confidential documents.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how it's a big deal when they're let loose, disseminated. In this case, up in Enfield, simply because government officials want people to see what they're actually saying and writing to each other. And because the government officials were writing to attorneys, then it was privileged information. So that's the conflict here. You're saying that this attorney is independent, but yet you're paying the attorney and then the attorney is privileged. So how on earth could that be an independent investigation? And if that law firm were to come out against the town, that law firm would never be hired by another municipality to do an investigation, because the last thing a municipality wants to do is pay an independent investigator $100,000 to investigate whether the town's doing something wrong, and they actually come down on the side of the person accusing the town of doing something wrong and say the town's in the wrong. So you had mentioned this case of Schnaub versus Schuh, and I had an opportunity to look into this case, the brief that I was writing. So let me just read you what my short summary of the case was to give a better idea of what it was. So the named party in Schnabel versus Schuh was the Rocky Hill town manager, O. Paul Schuh.
Oh, oops.
Yeah, you said that to me a bunch of times. Oops, that's the initials. So the municipality of Rocky Hill was named the defendant in Chief Schnabel's appeal from his dismissal, since they sued Schuh in his position, and it's SHEW, in his position as town manager. You're actually suing the town. Acting in his official capacity as a town manager, Schuh terminated the Rocky Hill chief police job. So Schuh terminated Schnabel. FOI had ordered the Rocky Hill town manager to disclose certain documents created by attorneys hired by the town manager to investigate the police chief. Of course, British novel dismissed for doing 7-278. This is the case of the town manager acting on behalf of the town of Rocky Hill. Hired an independent investigator, i.e. an attorney with MEAD privilege, an attorney privilege, to investigate the chief for wrongdoing. How do you think that came out? Do you think it came out that the chief engaged in wrongdoing?
No.
Oh, I'm going to say absolutely. You did.
Friday, the 13th of December, 1991. The Tyler verdict came out. The chief police had sued an officer, making all kinds of outrageous allegations.
It was related to us. It was a mess.
And then the officer countersued the chief. And on the evening of the 12th, the officer called me up and said, I think I'm going to lose. I think I'm going to lose. I think I'm going to lose. I said, what questions did the jury have? He said, you're going to win. The state of jury came back in $1991 and gave Officer Clyde Tyler $187,000 on his cross complaint, his response complaint, and gave Chief Schnabel nothing on his complaint against Clyde Tyler.
That hurt.
And that's all it took. So what happened was they were going to do the same thing with me. They were going to expose what happened to me. But the town attorney at the time said, well, we did all the investigating, but we're not going to use what happened to you because we're going to use the court transcript evidence from the trial with Clyde Taylor. So we don't need any of your facts to prove just cause. And so obviously, Clyde got his money. The chief gets fired. I go up to town and I go, okay, you promised me that you were going to bring me into this and resolve my issue. Not just Clyde getting money and getting shit, but I'm going to get repaid, made whole again. And you didn't. So, okay, I want under LOI, I want all of the records that you uncovered regarding me and Chief Schnabel during your investigation. And they tried attorney-client privilege. And I said, what do you mean attorney-client privilege? You were presenting me as a victim when you did it. No, attorney-client privilege. So I appealed. We went to Superior Court. And I think it got appealed. The town appealed. Maybe I won it initially. And then it got appealed. And then it got appealed. And the Supreme Court said, no, attorney-client privilege. And they've now at least touched on that again, saying What is the attorney talking to the town about? Or what is he providing to the town?
Yeah.
Is that covered or is that not covered?
Yeah, there's an analysis that goes on.
Right.
Just because, and it goes on with corporations, where they talk to their attorney, everything needs to do with their attorney. It's not protected. So where was I with this? Oh yeah. So the town manager served Chief Shovel with notification of intent to dismiss pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 2-7-278. Now your cousin, Bill Knapp, was involved in testifying on behalf of 7-278,
Right.
which went into effect, I don't know, back in the early 90s, right?
Oh, I think it was earlier than that.
You think it was? And what that statute said was, in Connecticut, to avoid police chiefs being politically manipulated by town managers, in other words, fearing for their jobs if they did not do what the town manager wanted, they passed this law that said you have to have just cause to get rid of a chief of police.
That's right.
And there's a hearing that goes along with that. There's procedures go along with it. And what Connecticut has now done to avoid that, to place police chiefs at the will of the political winds again, is the contract police chiefs for a specific period of time. Here's contract for 3 years. That way the chief knows if they don't do exactly as they're told to do, then contract's not going to be renewed. So nobody goes by the 7-278 anymore because police chiefs are always subject to contracts.
What the communities did was this. I think that sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. The towns found a way to get around the will of the legislature and the will of the population to say, you're not going to browbeat a police chief into arresting people that shouldn't be arrested. You're not going to
or not arresting people.
Or not arresting. But say, for example, there's a public nuisance law that if there's a bar in a row and there's too much drug activity and there's too many drunks and there's too many car crashes when they leave the bar, the city can go in and shut the bar down with the Liquor Control Commission, but they shut it down. And let's say, for example, somebody goes, well, that bar on Chenal is owned by a very prominent attorney. And the chief and the prominent attorney are very good friends with each other.
Yep.
So the bar stays open when the bars close. And to me, that would be just cause. Terminate a chief. But
no, okay, so the better example of what we're talking about now, though, is the owner of the bar is good friends with the town manager.
Oh,
and town manager says to the chief, I don't want you to do anything about that one.
There is a section of the text messages that we acquired from the town of Wethersfield. No, not a Lucky Lose.
Okay.
It was the manager asking a sergeant, who, by the way, was a temporary lieutenant for a while, but asking a sergeant, are you going to be taking a lieutenant exam? And sergeant said, well, I haven't really thought about it. I don't think so, blah, 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 blah. And the manager comes back and a text message says, well, why am I going through all of this? I mean, get rid of Jay Citron. If you're not going to look to promote it. In other words, if my guy's not going to fill a slot, you fill a lieutenant slot for eventually a chief slot. Why am I doing it? Why am I working to get rid of Jimmy Citron?
Yeah.
That was, to me, the biggest tell that you could have found all those records is the town manager is saying to a mid-level manager, sergeant, low-level manager, sergeant, if you're not going to stay, why am I going through all of the shit about trying to get rid of chief if you're not staying? Imagine. And nobody in this community, Wethersfield, Connecticut, nobody in this community rose up and there's an election coming in the beginning of November, I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
You know what we need in Wethersfield? We need people like the members of the BAA in Enfield to voice the wrongs. Now in Wethersfield, nobody cares. Everything is so entrenched. Anything can happen here. Now I think Wethersfield is a community that likes to think of itself as woke. You know,
I still don't understand that word.
well, equity, not equality. Diversity, equity, inclusivity. All the buzzwords that we have now in whatever we're in. What are we in, the 2020s? Is that what we're in? No, 2020s, right?
We're in the 21st century. We're not in the 22nd century. We're in the 21st century.
But like the 1980s was 1980, so the 1980s. So we're in the 2020s now, right?
We're in the
It's that
2000s.
year.
We're in the 2000s, yeah.
But it's the second decade, so the 2020s.
Okay.
I know it sounds awesome. I'm trying to figure it out. But in 2019, there was a Hispanic man that was driving and was fatally shot by a Wethersfield police officer.
Yes.
And he had a female companion in the car with him.
This is a 2020.
2019.
Was it 19?
Yeah, April 20th, 2019.
Okay.
That's when the new town manager came on board. He was only on board for about a month. And Wethersfield residents they were so outraged at this obvious, racism and the Hispanic male, whatever, was killed in Wethersfield. We need to do more about this, and the police department's racist, the police chief's racist. We discovered text messages between the town manager who was up there, pander to everybody, calling this kid, calling his girlfriend somebody who looks like or acts like Jay Paint Chips, saying about kid that got fatally shot, that he, they were making a big deal of.
Yeah, he's special ed.
Yeah.
The article said he was going to graduate from high school, and the manager said, "Yeah, what type of high school?"
Yeah, like thing that would be interpreted
But
by,
he's saying it privately,
in text messages,
not publicly.
but it wasn't private anymore when we put it out on the internet.
But it was intended to be private.
I know, but my point is, even when it became public, all these people in Wethersfield didn't care.
Okay, getting ready for the, and I know we're bouncing all over the place.
Oh yeah, I was reading. Let me finish this
Okay,
about
go ahead.
Schnell versus Schnell.
Go ahead.
So Shu was attempting to get rid of Shovel, and we kind of diverted off into this 7-70 process in Connecticut of getting rid of police chiefs. So the town manager served as the hearing examiner, and despite Schnabel's request that he recuse himself. And the court said that was okay, but in the Freedom of Information case, the FOI had ordered the Rocky Hill town manager to disclose certain documents created by attorneys hired by the town manager to investigate the police chief, and that was upheld all the way up to state Supreme Court. They were
it was overturned.
Yes, you were correct.
I wanted FOI.
Yes, you wanted FOI.
And then at the Superior Court Appeal level, and at the appellate level, they less than.
So you won, then you were returned in courts.
Yeah.
And so the courts went against the FOI and held that it was privileged because they were attorneys. Of course, everybody on courts are attorneys, right? So kind of the way that would probably go too. But anyway, that's enough of our version to Shovel versus Snooze. Versus Shovel.
No,
versus
listen. you had to understand. I mean, there was in this country, we had the Roaring Twenties. We had bootleg liquor coming in.
1920s, not 2020s.
1920s. We had liquor coming in. We had flappers. You know, women with no bra. Oh yeah, and the speakeasies there was to be out of control. It was nasty. It was crazy. Okay. Well, I have to tell you, the 1980s and 1990s, well, pretty much the late 70s through the mid 90s in Rocky Hill, Westfield, were out of control. I mean, everybody, after the Watergate hearings, all public employees were opening their mouth about shit that was going on, and would call somebody like me, and it would go, and everybody else is afraid to say it. Here's the evidence. Will you say it? I didn't have to worry about losing advertisers. You know, I was speaking for free. It was just, there was something about that time that these kids today, I'm talking about kids. No, talk about members of I'm 74, going to be 75 years old. I'm talking about the politicians of today, the people who are really driving it forward 30s, 40s, 50s, early 60s, 60s. These people don't know what it was like.
Of course they don't.
And exposed.
And you know what it's like them. So
No, no, no.
Everybody has their own
Listen,
generation.
you're 100%. I read an article the other day.
You don't know what it's like for people in the Civil War.
No. Oh, okay. I read an article the other day. It was written by someone, and it was so to the fact. It talked about firemen, and it said, and I remember that time, the fireman was this big, burly, charge into the fire building and do all kinds of shit, right? Well, the people that are applying now to be firefighters have never had to fix an engine, you know, start a generator. They've never had to work with hand tools. A lot of people came out of homes and off the farms, and they became firefighters. And they had muscle power. They had, in other words, the generators control the jaws of lift to get you out of a jam, and the generator stalls, and you don't know how to start it. You don't know how to fix it. You're looking at it like it's from outer space. Okay. Yes, over time they do learn, but it used to be applicants came into public safety, fire, and police with some knowledge of what's going on.
On the other hand, technology has advanced, which requires firefighters of today to have a different skill set.
Matter of fact, because they were working with the phone that gives cancer.
Be able to handle what there are challenges. There are challenges for each generation. So, okay, so we're going to end the Enfield story now.
But it's not there.
But no, I'm going to end my story now. But what happened? So this meeting went on 3 hours. Nobody left. Was crazy at
I was trying to tell the person. I mean, take a break. People need to take this. People need to. And what to do is, and he after the meeting, he said to me, "Well, I'm kind of new at this." I said,
"No."
I said,
"No." I disagree that he said that. He may have said that, but he was trying to save your feelings. But what he said, what I thought as well, if there were a break,
they'd leave
people.
No. Listen. I understand. Okay. What happens when you take a 5-minute break or a 10-minute break? People that have to relieve themselves like a guy to. No, would you listen to me, please? Okay. That's when the person in the first row gets to compete with the person in fourth row, and then the fourth row gets to compete with the third or second row, and the person on the right-hand side of the room gets talked to the left-hand side of the room, and they get up and shake each other's hand, and the camaraderie builds, okay? And then you sit back and you watch what happens. And sometimes I think you have to risk. Are people going to leave?
Yeah, I think you made the right call, though. It was late at night.
Complain about it. I just said, after a while, he was saying, one more thing. One more thing. It was 83. He had like 88 pages.
Yeah, he has something to go through, and that's the end of the story, because privileged and confidential documents had things in them between government officials that they thought would never see the light of day. He sat there and read from those documents, and that's what happened to the people at the meeting there, because they could not believe
What
what
they
they
were
were hearing.
Exactly.
There is a councilman in Enfield from a particular district, I think District 2.
District 2, Centennial, something like that.
He goes driving through his district to identify out-of-state license plates and field that's right on the board with maps. So there's a lot of
And reports them to the assessor.
reports them to the
There's a
assessor.
list of addresses. There's out-of-state cars parked to the assessor, and he runs for re-election in District 2 in Enfield, Connecticut.
I was thinking about
Nothing
that.
like fucking your constituent.
Well, I was thinking maybe no. You know what? He is not benefiting his constituents, because you could look at it like, well, he's getting more money for the town of Enfield, right? People who should be
You got to
paying
think of the
taxes.
whole. You can't think of the district.
No, but you know what? His voters on District 2, they do not want to subsidize Bolton and Enfield, I'm sure. I guess, I don't know. I think because if I elect somebody in my district and they're going around being real harsh, but that district over there, that councilman isn't, doing that, then my district's going to be paying more.
Well, yeah, I mean, think of it this way. I never understood the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, which said if I'm married in this state, California has to recognize my marriage. That's part of the 14th Amendment. Is that what happens here happens there? Am I correct?
I don't know about that, but yeah, but it's true. It's true what you're saying.
Why is it that a friend of mine can go to Reno, Nevada, and come back with all these like napkins that you get bought, and it's called the Stagecoach Brothel. Based on how much money you have, you can hire women for the night. 1 woman, 5 women, 10 women.
Sure,
I'm
sure you can hire men for
And
the night
I'm
too.
sure there's people that are against legalizing prostitution, but somebody's afraid you can't control the revenue.
I don't. What were you talking about for that? I mean, I don't mind talking about that. It just seems really
About district over here does
yes,
something, district
taxes.
over here does something else.
Yeah,
The law is forced this way in
different thing to
Westfield,
talk about.
this way in Rock Hill. In other words, the Rock Hill assessor
And
does
by
not go around and fuck with PA 490.
what does in Enfield?
The Rock Hill
Oh,
assessor
yeah.
does not fuck with farmers at PA 490. The assessor in Enfield, and I guess you've had some problems in Brookfield prior to going to Enfield.
Talk about picking on picks farmers.
Have you
Picks on small farmers? I mean, it's kind of not done.
Have you ever, may suggest it, and it really, I'm not talking to people right now that live in Arizona or Colorado or wherever, Ohio. Have you ever watched Incredible Dr. Pole, the veterinary show? Did you ever see the farms that he goes to? Did you ever see the way they're dressed? Did you ever see their hands when they're doing something? They're crunchy, callous from working, and they're trudging through cleaning cow shit. Okay? And these people feed our nation. They feed us. I can't for my life, Now I'm 74.
We know, Ed.
I'll tell you again and again and again because I look so young, Okay. There's a building at Rich Road and Jordan Lane in Wethersfield, Connecticut. It's a big brick building. It's now apartments.
Yeah.
That was the Connecticut School for the Blind.
I did not know that.
Or the agency, whatever. And you know something? It was known. No legislature ever took money out of the budget for the blind. It just wasn't a good political move to be arguing that they're getting too much money. They're blind.
Yeah.
They're doing everything they can to contribute and be part of society. And a lot of people are Helen Keller, a part of our society, and we're taken away from them. You can't own a 500-acre farm today in the Midwest to grow wheat unless you have 2,000 acres. You can't buy it financially, and if you got to buy a $250,000 combine to be able to do it. These guys that rent it, whatever. But I'm saying we are not looking at ourselves in the mirror enough to say, there but for the grace of God go I. Now, and I don't know, there's somebody who said all I do is talk about. Gary, try me one more time with audio.
All you just talk about.
Hello, Ed.
I can hear you. Hold on. I can hear you. I'm turning volume. Hold on a minute. Try again,
Hello, Ed.
Gary.
Hi, Rachel.
How are you?
Hi, Gary.
Hi, Rachel.
Okay.
Hi.
Let me see if I can do this. Okay. Well, it's weird, but let me get rid of this first. I think I figured out the audio thing.
You guys
There
are
you go.
garbled.
Really?
We're garbled?
Yes.
Jesus.
Whole show?
Yeah, that's better.
Well, just let me finish this. Can't run a successful farm today. Like in Connecticut, there used to be small farms, and a farmer may have 50 to 100 milky cows. And Connecticut milk producers in Newton would go around the state with a big tank truck, and they would suck up your milk and would process it for us to drink. Farms aren't doing it anymore. I mean, why am I talking about farms?
Because it was
We $4.90.
It was brought up a lot at the meeting the other night.
We tried.
The farming community.
We tried to do everything in our power as a society to support the average family farm.
There was a comment by one of the other night at this meeting where PA 90 basically means that farmers are paying more taxes on their land, correct?
Right.
Okay, but their land is still assessed at its value.
That's like going to build a mansion on it.
Yeah, so you're not paying hardly any taxes because you're using it for farmland, but it's assessed at, $10 million, right?
Yeah.
And there was a comment on Wednesday night, and I learned this from my clients, the Board of Assessment of members, where farmers don't care what their land is assessed at because they are farming it and they're not paying.
Get a substantial reduction in tax.
Right. Substantial is a word for it, basically. Yeah.
Reasonable.
But the problem with that is if you stop farming it, or you stop complying with pay 490 or whatever, then it's assessed at this outrageous amount. So you still need to keep your eye on assessment.
I have 3 parcels of land that are under agriculture. Right now, there was, until recent flood, there was corn growing on it. And the corn, whatever. And I didn't apply for 490. We paid the taxes, whatever they were, and the farmer would give my wife a dozen eggs. She eat an egg, you go get eggs. Eggs or milk. Egg or butter. And he very graciously offered to pay the taxes on the land, but he wanted me to exercise my entitlement to put the property in 490 because he would pay the taxes. We would have to pay taxes because he said, Ed, you're eligible for PA 490. I grew up in a house where my mother owned 10 acres. She put hay lot in PA 490. It was a similar thing because the neighboring farm grew hay. there's some things going on in this country that start at our level and work their way up. And because there's things that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't have it written down, and I didn't do my homework for this show this week.
Well, I think we've been going about an hour. What do you think?
I just want to finish with a couple of
Okay.
extras.
Because I some
You got some serious work to do.
I
You're
do.
gonna be up all night long.
I got back to it. Yeah.
Because you got till Monday morning at 8:30 to get stuff done. I believe that farmers should be worshipped if they're farming. And the American Indians need to be compensated before anybody else gets what it called retribution or reparation.
Not retribution.
Before any minority in this country is acquired a penny in what's it called? Reparations. We need to do it for the American Indians. We need to take care of the Native American Indians. And it's not my wife she sponsors children with Save the Children. She'll sponsor a kid in Africa, and he gives so much money a month. Some of the organization keeps the chunk. Then the kid gets the chunk, and he gets food, he gets education, he gets homework supplies. And then all of a sudden, Lois gets an email. They had drowned.
Oh, God.
And Lois was very upset because she used to get pictures and they
Oh, God. I wish you hadn't.
No. Listen. Oh, there's a couple of things I've learned about Lois in this week.
Oh, God, man.
Now, hold on a minute. She was sending donations to a Native American, Navajo, one of those in the Southwest, and they lived in a shack. But there were all kinds of brand new four-wheel drive quads, playing around. And Lois got kind of upset, saying, I'm doing as much as I can, but I don't think they're using the money the way it should be used. And I'm going to give. I don't talk about Ralph Appanera and Town Consignment, his business too often. But what Ralph would do is Ralph would give us some of the clothes and he only takes in good clothes. If it didn't sell and people didn't want it back, he would give me boxes of clothes. And Lois and I would pay to ship them out to the Indian reservation so that it would go to their goodwill on the reservation. But we need to look more at ourselves and inside. And maybe it's because I know that there's stop signs somewhere ahead of me that's going to say you can't go any further at. When you to be my age and you've got my issues, you start thinking about that. So I hope that we can get this working next week. And Gary,
practice
Gary,
this week.
Gary,
Yeah.
let's you and I do a show by ourselves during the week.
Okay.
Okay.
Wednesday.
Huh?
Send me an email.
I'll send you an email. Did you get the email today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's
Yes.
put this one out.
Okay. I'm closing this out.
Everybody have a good week.
Okay.
I got to get back to work.
Okay, get back to work, Rachel.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for
We'll
the
talk to you.
encouragement.
And if Eric is out there someplace with his microphone muted, I'm going to call you, Eric, and we're going to see what the hell's going on. Listen, I appreciate your logging in. You're the man who makes me get the audio right. It's your audio to me that I can't figure out.
But
I'll talk to you.
everybody have a good week.
Bye.
Bye. And podcast.